Are you ready? I think we're ready. This week on Camera Talk, we're not looking at lenses. I'm pointing at Dylan as I say that. We're not looking at cameras. Oh, we are looking at lenses, aren't we? But it's not like an individual lens or anything like that. What are we looking at this week? We're looking at focal length. What is your focal length? What's your favorite focal length? What do you use them for? What are they? Who the hell knows, right? Well, we're going to find out together, aren't we? So grab yourself something to eat or drink. Come on down and let's get you some.
Here I am, Vietnam. Rain is always coming down.
This is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott and Dylan. All right. Well, all right. Well, welcome back to another episode of Camera Talk. Well, this week, again, we're taking a little break from our kind of little lens overviews or camera system chit chat, and who knows what. Well, Dylan knows, but it all comes down to what's your focal length. Focal lengths come in all kinds of shapes and sizes, and
there's so many different sizes
and lengths, right? If it's a focal length, what's the length of your focal? It's not a phallic thing, is it?
That's what she said.
No. So, what is a focal length anyway? Well, if you take a look at the nameplate on any lens, this one has one on the inside. Some have them written around the outside here. Just depends on the manufacturer themselves. But you'll notice somewhere in there, there'll either be something mentioned as a centimeter or a meter. Millimeter, not meter, millimeter. Now, for those who don't live in a metric world, like those in the USA,
the metric marvels, meter man, liter, super Celsius, and wondergram, metric superheroes, fighting to stamp out metric ignorance and introduce the system that rules the world.
Or even some countries like Canada. Since I grew up in Canada, I knew that we used metric for some stuff, but we use the imperial system for everything else. Ask a Canadian how tall they are.
Good day. How's it going? Okay. Boy.
They'll probably say, oh, I'm 5'8", or I'm 6'2", or whatever. Ask them how much they weigh. Oh, I'm 170 pounds, or blah, 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 blah. Anyway, but if it comes to filling out paperwork and everything else, they ask you in kilograms and in centimeters and everything else. So us Canadians are kind of ambidextrous when it comes to measurements, and we measure things in both imperial and metric. But some countries only know metric, and some countries like the US, a lot of people haven't got a clue what metric really is, unless you're into sciences or engineering or other sorts like that, or you just care to know. But anyway, a focal length is going to be either in centimeters or in millimeters. And depending on the age of the lens, the older the lens, the more likely it'll be in centimeters, and the newer the lens is, the more likelihood it'll be in millimeters. So like my top core 58 millimeter 1.4 here, it is a 1960s, early 60s lens, and therefore it's in centimeters. So the focal length on this one is 5.8 centimeters. If this was a newer lens, late 60s into the 70s, it would be in millimeters, and it would be 58 millimeters. Wow, tricky conversion, huh?
Wow!
5.8 centimeters equals 58 millimeters. It's one of the reasons why the metric system is relatively easy to use. It's because all you're doing is moving decimal points along. So, go figure. And what else? Your centimeter or millimeter really is a measurement of your angle of view, of what the mathematics is for the formula that creates the lens. How many lens elements are in the lens itself, and how light travels or transitions between lenses creates that particular angle of view. I'm not going to get obviously into the science of how lenses are designed, but what is your focal length? And a lot of people like me use a variety of focal lengths. I use wide angle, normal, standard, long lenses, rarely using telephoto long lenses. But there's a lot of people out there who are also happy with a fixed focal length. There's a lot of cameras out there that are compact cameras, kind of like my Lumix LX100 Mark II is a fixed lens. You cannot change the lens, but it's also a zoom. And that's very common for compact cameras. Now, cameras like the Leica Q family have a 28 millimeter Summilux 1.7 attached to the front. You cannot change it, and you cannot zoom with it. It's just a fixed focal length. How odd is that for
That's weird.
those who are used to using multiple lenses or zooms and whatnot on there? So you zoom with your feet, as they say. If you want to get closer to something, you have to physically walk closer to something. If you want a wider angle, you have to back up and move away from it. So again, that's what a fixed focal length is on a fixed camera. Now, if you're talking about focal lengths that do not change, such as this 58 millimeter or this 35 millimeter, they're called prime lenses. And a prime lens is that. It's one focal length. It doesn't change its angle of view. And the same as I just mentioned with that Leica Q. If you want to get closer to your subject, you have to walk closer to it, or drive closer to it, or swim closer to it, or crawl closer to it. Can you think of any other way you can get closer to it? Or have your subject move closer to you. Yeah, something like that. So those are prime lenses. What other kind of lenses do we have? We have macro lenses, which again, the focal length has no bearing on that. It could be a 50 macro, it could be a 100 macro. Macro means it's almost like a telescope or a microscope. It gets a closer rendition of your subject. So it's great for insects. It's great for product photography. It's great for getting pictures of Dylan's eyelashes. Not that you would want a picture of his eyelashes, but if you did, a macro lens would be what you wanted. Then you have zoom lenses, which are the ones that have multiple focal lengths in the same lens. As I said, the fixed compact cameras have built-in zoom lenses. Most kit lenses that come with your camera system are zoom lenses, like my Canon M50 that's recording this video now has a 15 to 45 range. And, aperture settings to go along with these are a completely different thing too, but I'm not going to talk about those because we're just talking about focal lengths today. But if you want to zoom in closer to your subject, you don't actually have to move. You just hit your zoom button. And it changes from 15 all the way out to 45 millimeter lens. Now, of course, it's an APS-C camera, so there's a crop factor involved in that. And that's the next point that has an influence. What are you doing with your feet, mister? Has an influence on your focal length as well. And that's your sensor size. Now, a full frame sensor, like my Sony a7R II and my Leica M9 are both full frame sensors. So when you have a 50 millimeter lens attached to these cameras, it is a 50 millimeter lens. When you attach it to an APS-C camera, it's a smaller sensor. Therefore, there's a crop factor involved, And most systems out there crop by 1.5. Canon crops by 1.6. Why? Because they're special.
Well, isn't that special?
They're special, just like Dylan. She's special. And then we have micro four thirds, which again is my Panasonic over here. Its sensor is even smaller than an APS-C, and therefore its crop factor is 2. So if you have a 50 millimeter lens on your micro four thirds, it actually behaves as a 100 millimeter lens because you're timesing it by 2. So your field of view or your angle of view looks like this, but then when you put the lens on micro four thirds, it actually crops it down times 2, and it acts like a zoom lens, and gets that much closer to your subject. So those are how sensor sizes affect your focal length as well. So what's the difference between a wide, a normal, and a long, and a telephoto lens? Well, your wide angle lenses are going to be under 35 millimeter. So your 28s, your 24s, your 21s, your 16s, your 12s, your 8, whatever angle lens. And of course, the lower the number, the wider your angle of view is going to be. Yeah, good description, mister. So your 35, you'll be able to see a photo that captures this much area, more of an environmental photo. Your 21 will be this much. Your 8 millimeter will be this much. You can't stretch that far, can you? So that's a wide angle. And what are wide angles stereotypically used for? Landscape, architecture. I want to take pictures of buildings and churches and stuff, even though a church is a building, but just as an example. Or street photography. A lot of street photography wants to capture the environment, wants to capture all that's going on in the background. So a wider angle lens, a wider angle focal length is going to be what you're looking for. Now, with that said too, there are no set rules with this kind of thing. Just because you're going to do street photography doesn't mean you need a wide angle lens. You can use a normal or standard lens. You can use a zoom lens. There's no rules for that, but I'm just saying this is a typical use for these types of lenses. Now, what I just said, normal or standard, which is normal is what our eyes see when we look forward, and it's kind of in that range between 40 millimeter and 60 millimeter, somewhere in that range, is kind of what the field of view of what our eyes can pick up. So that's why the industry calls them normal lenses or standard lenses. And they, again, can be used for landscape, for architecture, for street photography, for portraiture, for taking pictures of butterflies and other insects and Dylan's eyelashes, if you can get in that close, depending on the lens itself. So those are normal lenses. Now, long lenses are from 70 to 100 millimeter, in that range, and those are what most portrait photographers would say are ideal for portraiture. They tend to flatter the face, and when I say flatter, I don't mean flatten. I mean flatter as in complement the features of the face. Versus a wide-angle lens, which if you get too close with somebody you're trying to take a photo of for a portraiture, you may end up seeing some wicked distortion as their nose starts to grow or their cheekbones start to widen and so forth and so on. You could find that out yourself through experimentation. But generally, a portrait lens is going to be 70 to 100. So, and the most popular ones, of course, are 85 millimeter, 90 millimeter, 100, 105, 135 maybe for portraiture. Yeah. We take pictures of Dylan. When people take pictures of you, you like to be the star, don't you?
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
And then we have the telephoto as they call it, and it's anything over 100 kind of falls within that range. So up to 200 or 400 or some of these monster bazooka-like looking lenses. They're great for wildlife photography because obviously you're taking photos of grizzly bears during mating season and they're fighting with each other and whatnot. You're probably not going to want to get in there with a 28 millimeter and get up in their face to get a nice close-up picture. Or maybe you might. Have you ever seen Revenant? Or was it called Revenant? No, I forget. The one with Leonardo DiCaprio. Where he gets attacked by that bear. That's a pretty cool scene. Or whatnot. There's other scenes out there too where Buddy gets attacked by a grizzly bear. Doesn't look like it's any fun anyway. So I'd rather have a telephoto 800 millimeter lens and then back about half a mile from, or half a kilometer metric. Not that they're equal, but away from that subject so that the bear does not decide to snack on Dr. Scott and leave Dylan fatherless. That'd be so terrible, wouldn't it? You know, have to spend all your time with mommy. Sucker. And what are telephotos good for? If you're, besides, you know, again, distance for wildlife and you want to zoom in or you want to spy on neighbors down the street. They're also used in portraiture because of the compression. The closer, obviously, your subject gets to you, the more compressed the background is, and it kind of blurs out all the background for that out of focus background, or the quality of the OOF, which is called bokeh.
Smooth, buttery bokeh.
Yeah, you like bokeh? Yes, you like bokeh. So, with that said, was there anything else you wanted to mention about focal length? You want to poke me in the eye? That's not going to help you. But, and I do mean but, because we like big butts.
Like big butts, and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny.
I think that was kind of really all I wanted to talk about with focal length. But the other types of, I guess, nitty-gritty little things about lenses too. I mean, it's going to make a difference whether your lens is autofocus, manual focus, or whether it's got image stabilization, all these other kinds of things. But that's not to do with focal length, though. It's more to do with the way you're using your lens, or the best use you can get from your lens, and so forth and so on. So there's a lot of different elements that are affected by focal length. Now, what's your favorite focal length? A lot of people say, oh, I like to shoot with a 28, or I like to shoot with a 75, or a 90, or a 50, or a 21. A lot of people don't even really think about their favorite focal length. Well, it's not like you don't like to think very much. Just do, right? And again, a lot of people think their favorite focal length is like 21 or 28 or something like that. Well, why don't you look through your photo catalog and see what it really is, you know, separate them by focal length. And you may be surprised that you think you use your 90 millimeter all the time, and yet you've used it 6 times in the last year for maybe 15 photos out of the 898 photos that you have. So 90 probably isn't really your favorite focal length. You know, you can kind of test that out by what's on your camera most of the time. And for me, it's either the 35 or a 50-ish. This is a 58, but a 50-ish. So 35 to 50-ish. They're not actually that much different between each other. So obviously that range from 35 to 60, I would say, is my focal length, my favorite focal length. You know, I tend to have that on my camera more than anything else. Now, of course, for camera talk, you know, I use all kinds of different lenses on there just to show you what they are. But if you, again, take my vintage lens collection and look at the average, I probably have more 50-ishes than anything else. And I like it. You know, I like what my eye sees. I like to take pictures as if my eye were the camera taking the picture. That's just me. I mean, for you, you may love wide focal length. You may love a 16 millimeter or an 18 millimeter. You may take all your pictures of that, or a 21 or a 24. A lot of people do. Some people live by the 35. You know, they never have a 50 or an 85 or a 135 ever on their camera. And there's no right or wrong to that, right? I know in the world of photography, if you look at a lot of websites out there, you know, your f-stops and ones like that, or f-stoppers, you read the comment section, and man, people are brutal with each other. Like, it's like, oh, somebody made a comment, attack, kill that person, string them up, burn their house down, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. It's almost like politics, you know, whether you're, well, in the U.S. anyway, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, kill the other side. That's what politics has turned into these days.
Oh shit! Okay. Oh my god.
And for those who fall into that category, you suck. You know, what happened to the old days when people used to be able to talk to each other about things and you can agree to disagree on something. No big deal. It's not the end of your life. But that seems to be the way politics is these days, as if the end of the world is coming. And if you don't think what I do, then you must die.
Oh, I don't want to talk about it.
I got to go do boom, boom, boom.
You know, it's terrible, isn't it? Yeah. Why can't we all just get along? Rodney used to say. So I think that was all I was going to talk about with focal lengths anyway. So just remember, the lower the number, the wider the angle. The higher the number, the more narrow your field of vision is through your, whether it's through a rangefinder, whether you're seeing the window, or whether it's through the lens itself, through the electronic viewfinder itself. So with that said, how about we give a little plug for our photo editing software, right? Most of these photos that we see on the screen here have been edited with a piece of software that I like to use called Luminar. Luminar AI and Luminar Neo. And Neo is the latest, greatest one, which is a combination of AI and Luminar 4. But it's cool. There's all kinds of bells and whistles and all kinds of AI, which is the important part, I think. What does AI stand for? Artificial intelligence, right? It's not that real intelligence. It's that fake stuff that we've been so used to hearing about the last few years. Fake.
I'm a very stable genius.
So, but in this case, the fake intelligence is okay because it does a lot of work that would normally take a lot of time out of my day, to which I would rather be doing other things than editing these photos. So it's cool to me. Now there's there's background AI, there's cropping AI, there's sky replacement AI, power line removal, spot removal, all these kinds of things that Luminar can do to shorten or speed up your workflow. And that's what it's all about for me, because I like that model myself. And the best part of Luminar is that it's economical. It's only $80. That's right, $80. It's yours for life. You don't have to pay any subscription or anything. Now, if they do a full-blown product update, then of course you got to buy the new product. But they're updating the new features and things all the time. Every few weeks or every month or so, there's a new upgrade, and so you don't pay for those. You just download them and boom, away you go. So we like that, right? And if you want to get yourself a copy, if you go into the description below, there's a link in there, which is a link for us, And you can buy Luminar through that link and you will save $10. Who doesn't like that, right? Saving $10 from $80 to $70. And why do we like that too? Well, we get a little kickback for that. Why not? Everybody loves kickbacks. Yeah, kickbacks. And what does Dylan get for that? Does Dylan get $1 million?
$1 million.
Well, he wishes he got $1 million. Daddy wishes you got $1 million too, so you could share with Daddy. Yeah, because you're at that age where you like to share things. Once you become a teenager or older, you're not going to share shit with Daddy, are you? No, except
No shit, Sherlock.
grief and all kinds of problems that you're going to bring into my life. And be calling me on every weekend. Oh, Dad, please help me pay for this. Oh my God, I got arrested. Come get me out of jail. No? All right, well, you'll see. We can dare to dream. What else? How about you support our channel? How can they support our channel? Well, besides sending us money and cookies, right? You can subscribe. That's right. Dylan, want to subscribe? Subscribe. Get your finger out there. Subscribe. And a 4-finger subscriber call out. Subscribe. Well, that's right. And what else does YouTube like besides subscribers? They like to cough and hack? No. Well, they definitely don't like to be hacked. Nobody in computer land likes to be hacked. But we like the thumbs up, right? Dylan loves the thumbs up because he loves the thumbs up girls. Thumbs up, do 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 do. Thumbs up. And I think that was pretty much all we wanted to get on about, right? Well, who are we? Besides Dr. Scott and Dylan, we are brought to you by Modesty Photography. And of course, it's not a sponsored thing because we are Modesty Photography, so we sponsor ourselves, right? Well, what are we here for? To talk about tips and tricks about photography, little insights here and there, talk about lenses and cameras and compositions and pictures of Dylan and Mommy. I know Dylan wishes we'd have more episodes just about Dylan so that everybody can build their fan base around Dylan, and someday he'll have his own YouTube channel. Well, who knows what that'll be about, but I'm sure you'll enjoy it at that time. So other than that, why should people always come back here? Why? Every week. We have a video every Friday. Friday, Vietnam time anyway. Because you belong here. And where do they belong? What is the name of our show? It is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott and Delayed Dylan. I thought you were going to point at yourself this time. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for spending time with us. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the subscription. Thanks for the thumbs up. Thank you for just being you. And we hope to see you come back next week, right? And we'll talk about something completely different.
And now for something completely different.
Who knows what it could be? So if you want something specific, though, leave it in the comment section below. Well, it doesn't have to be about what you want. It could be just a comment saying, hi. Hi, Dylan. Dylan's cute. Get rid of Dr. Scott. Keep Dylan. Whatever. I'm sure that's what you're thinking. But anyhow, we'll see you next week. So, you ready to say bye-bye? Ready to say bye-bye? All right. Bye-bye.
Here I am.